High five. We're doing good, aren't we? And good things are coming our way. Well, today I'm going to continue with some memory lane stuff back there and talking about 50s parents. Now, don't go anywhere because this is really good stuff. Really, what we're doing is we're all talking about life, okay? Now, I'm Minivan Lee, and this is my studio. Welcome to my studio. This is my home, and I've lived in a minivan for 7 years. Oh my gosh. I've got a birthday coming up in just a couple days. Yay, I'm going to be 71. And also, please subscribe, okay? It really does help me out. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Number 6. Parents of the 50s always had family dinners ready to go for their children and for the family. And it was a time when you could sit down and have good conversation. I remember my family dinners very well. In fact, there were days where I wish that we didn't do that all the time because it really cut into after school activities. For me, I remember that. Oh my gosh, there were certain things and I would ask, I go, well, can I participate in this? Well, no, because you won't be home for dinner. It'll interfere with our dinner. Dinner was at 5. High five. I don't know how high it was, but I'll tell you what, it really was a good time. Those are memories I think that we all remember. I know this. My lights, I use lights so often now that they just go out. I've got to keep powering them up all the time. It really does take a lot of power. People say, well, why do you use so much power? I've got a lot of lights. I do, obviously. Okay, so let's move this one around. Let's move this one around. Oh, that's so much better. Yeah, dinner at 5. Be there or be in trouble. Not be square, but be smashed. Yeah. 5 o'clock. My father came home, my dad, and I think he got home. He left work 5, and I think it was like, and he worked really close, that it would be like within 5 minutes, and he came home, and we would usually sit down and have dinner. I will also mention in my home, my mother was a good cook. That's what she did. And we had all the food groups, including dessert. We always had dessert. Did you have dessert? I was wondering, was that a main thing? Was that mainstream? Or was my mom just, she just wanted dessert? Yeah. She was a heavy woman, not obese, not like, whoo, but she was a heavy woman, out of shape. And a lot of times it was pie, pudding, let's see, what else? Sometimes strawberry shortcake, all kinds of stuff, sometimes ice cream. But a lot of cases, because I grew up in Ohio, which is farm country, we had fresh fruits a lot, and then she canned fruits also. Let me get my mouth going here. And so sometimes it was just a cup of fruit. Yeah, sometimes it'd just be a cup of grapes, but it was dessert. It was dessert. We had all the meats. Nothing unusual. My parents were not into unusual meats, which is one of the reasons I'm probably not either. I don't go for kind of unusual foods. Well, they would be unusual to me. Maybe not to you, but I'll just mention a few. Like, we didn't really have lobster. We didn't have deer. I've never eaten rabbit, ever. Let's see, what other meats? Oh, you know what? I've never had, I'm serious. You might go, what? I have never eaten lamb, ever. I don't know what it tastes like, but I know that you all, a lot of other people, y'all love it, but I've never had that. I have eaten lobster then later on in life, but here's just for me, it was just a sensitivity thing in me. I think when I was younger, I found out that lobsters can live up to 75 years. Okay. And I thought, that's kind of gross to eat something that can live longer than human beings. They must be really something to live that long. And there's a whole lot of information now about lobsters and their lives and how special a lobster is. Plus, they're like these little cockroaches. They call them the cockroaches of the ocean. They're down there, cleaning things up, right? So I don't eat lobster anymore, but I do remember it. I know that it tastes very well. Never eaten a rabbit, ever. Okay, so we didn't have that, but we always had vegetables. Sometimes we had casseroles. We had soup and breads and yeah, things like that. So our dinner was very, very important. It was to be there. Yeah. And we all had a special chair too. Everybody had a chair to sit in. Yeah. So that was just fun times. So let me know if you guys, if your dinners late night, some people called them suppers, some people called them dinner, if they were that special in your family. Okay. Okay. Number 7, parents of the 50s hosted birthday parties often for every birthday. Now, they were simple. What they were saying is they hosted birthday parties at home. A lot of times now, birthday parties are featured in like, oh, the zoo, or, you know, got to remember the Chuck E. Cheese, right? Chuck E. Cheese. But they were simple. They were simple birthday parties. They had cake, ice cream, presented presents, and had simple games. And that was a birthday party. I mentioned yesterday that with my children, I carried that on. And they always had a little birthday party because they had a lot of friends. My children were very social, and I'm very social. And they would always come to our house. Children hung out at our house, okay? So my children always had a lot of friends. Yeah, in Tucson, they still associate with a lot of their friends that they grew up with. Oh, yeah. So, let's see, what else with the birthday parties? Yeah, they were a lot of fun. It was a good way to get to know, if you were going to host a birthday party, it was a good way to get to know the children's and to get their parents, because they would drop them off. You got to meet them. And you also, and some of them would stay. And so we would develop a friendship with their friends' parents. I remember one, let me just mention briefly, oh my gosh, with my oldest daughter, they were into skating. In Tucson, skate country was a big deal back then, oh my gosh. And I forget how old she was, but she had a lot of friends and a lot of girls came. And of course, my oldest son was 2 years younger than her. And he had a couple of his friends. Well, I let him invite his two friends over. Oh my gosh, talk about fun. We went to skate country and then we came back. And I got her the doll, Pee-wee. You know, the doll, you pull the string and it would say, I know you are, but what am I? You know, things like that. Or it would laugh, yeah. That doll was the hit of the party. And we actually all stayed up pretty late. The boys had fun. All of the girls had a lot of fun. And we had a lot of games. I think they stayed up till like midnight. I let them stay up and we all kind of hung out together. I know, go figure. But it was a lot of fun. So that was probably the most famous birthday party in my children's lives. But yeah, we had birthday parties. So a lot of 50s parents did. Okay, moving on. Oh, number 8. 50s parents, they had their children do chores. Yeah. Oh, I had my chores. They weren't hard. They weren't that difficult. A daily chore. Like, I think there for a while, I had to take the garbage out. That was a time, oh my gosh, we could burn our garbage. We had like a big, what would you call that? A can? Like a big barrel? And we would burn, you could do that in the city. Oh my gosh. You could burn leaves too. You can't do that anymore. Oh my gosh. But we did. And there were things that we could do. I was never allowed, personally me, because I was the youngest, I was never allowed to mow the lawn. Maybe they thought I was very inept at that. I would hurt myself, right? I know, yeah. I turned out to be quite, I was in construction. They assumed that because I was the youngest, I seemed not as bright as them, but that's because I was younger, right? And no, I wasn't as smart as them. I didn't have the years that they had. to figure all these things out. So yeah, I was kind of held back just a little bit, but I went on and did lots of stuff. I was in construction. I can maintain, I can't change my brakes, but I can maintain a lot of things in my van under the hood. And I like to do guy stuff. I like to do things like that. And but I was never allowed to mow the lawn. But I did have to clean the house. Oh my gosh, every week. I think we rotated a little bit, but it seemed like I was always doing it. Maybe that's why I love to clean. It was good for me, right? I learned how to clean. Well, I will tell you a story that I remember when it has to do with cleaning. When I turned 13, we went to a Lutheran church and they had catechism. Lutherans are obviously very close to Catholics, right? Because Martin Luther broke away from the Catholic Church. So there was still a lot of rituals. We had catechism. We couldn't take communion until we went through catechism, and that happened at 13. Well, I remember I had to walk. And it was across town. It wasn't a big town, but it did take a good half hour to get there. I was to walk. Can you imagine a 13-year-old walking across town these days? Maybe, depends on the town, right? But yeah, I remember I had to go across a bridge too. That was like, I was afraid of heights. I always come down. Whoo. But I made it, and I had to get back because the Beatles cartoon was on. I was a huge Beatle fan. Oh my gosh. And let me know if you were too. And I did meet one lady at a senior center one time, and we said something about this. She goes, "Oh, I never liked the Beatles." I'm like, what? I can't imagine. Okay. Didn't like the Beatles. And then, so I could watch the cartoon, and then I had to get busy. And I had to clean the house, and I had to vacuum and dust with the vacuum. And I think that was probably it. Maybe wipe down a few things, but it seemed daunting to me, like, really? Okay, I'm sure it didn't take very long, but I didn't like it. And then dishes, oh my gosh, yeah, we rotated dishes. Here's something I do remember about dishes. My grandpa came over, my dad's father. And he visited, and he saw my brother doing dishes. He was 1 year older than me. And he was the only boy in the family. And he was doing the dishes. And I didn't hear it, but my mom really railed against it after he left. I guess he said, boys shouldn't be doing dishes like that. I know. My mom wasn't too pleased about that, you know. But my grandpa was an important man, and in the town, or used to be. He was, you know, older now, but yeah, he used to be important in the town, and so that was pretty cool. But he was a no-nonsense kind of guy. Yeah, right? I guess that's probably why my mom and him didn't overly get along, because they were so alike, you know? Yeah. Okay, let's see. Oh, and cooking. I did put down there, it said that in the 50s, parents, they taught the children how to use a stove and to cook by the time they were 10. That didn't happen in my house. Oh, we weren't allowed to do anything in the kitchen, really, except get in the freezer and get a popsicle or get some fruit or something. But no, we weren't really allowed to cook. And that was her domain. That was her area. Do not cross it, okay? But I would always stand there and watch her cook. That's why I was a good cook, because I got to watch her cook. I would sit there and just, guess what I did? I would sit there and chitter-chatter with her. She listened to me. She was a good mom. Sometimes I say, oh, she was so harsh. But she was really wonderful. She did listen to me. She just let me chat away. And because I've always been like this, just like I am right now. And so I really learned a lot by watching her cook. But I wasn't allowed to do it. And I remember my oldest daughter, guess what I bought her, because I wanted to play with it too. The Easy Bake Oven. I know. That was quite the farce. But, there you go. But at least I got to play with it. It was a little late, but I got to play with it. So, yeah. Okay, number 9. I will say this, it's true. These parents did not push academics, not in my family. And I think yesterday's video, I talked about the bell curve. You know how a bell curve goes. When they're doing statistics and doing studies, you got the bell curve, and the bulk of the statistics of people who do whatever you're studying, that's called the top of the bell curve. It's like a bell curve, right? Usually all studies kind of a bell curve. The most are at the top of that bell curve. Then as the curve goes down, you only have a little bit. And then what you got on the outside, there's only a few. You got they call them outliers, the outliers. There's just a few odds and ends. Like if you're talking about IQ, intelligence, and the numbers, you got the bell curve. I think the average is what, 100, maybe 100, 110, you know, that's average. That's at the top of the bell curve. But the outliers would be Elon Musk, you know, and then way over here would be totally a retarded child, you know, retarded person. So those are the outliers, but the bell curve, yeah. Okay. Yeah, they didn't really push academics. I remember going to kindergarten, and it did say in the article, it said that most children did not know their ABCs until first grade. And nowadays, you better know you better be learning all that early in preschool. Well, I think that I've since studied learning, how to learn, and children's learning, and they say it's better not to push. Some children just aren't ready for it, and it will actually turn them against learning. And I think, yeah, I think I started doing, I was getting ready in kindergarten to do all of that. It was more play and drawing and getting to know other kids. And we only went, at that time we went, well, at least in my area, we only went half day. Okay, I was a morning, maybe that's why I'm a morning person. I was the morning kindergarten class. Okay. Well, so they didn't really push it, and they didn't push being perfect. They were allowed to fail. Children could fail. They weren't, if they weren't good at something, it was okay, because they're probably good at something else. But yeah, learning was not your main issue. What parents back then wanted to teach people how to do is practical things, like doing chores, being a good citizen, not stealing, you know, things like that. What else did I put down here? They wanted to teach real world things. Yeah. So, you know, maybe being out in the garden. I remember we had a cage, a nice area. There were different things that we did. For a while we had bunnies, and it was exciting. We learned about bunnies, and we had a few fruit trees, okay. And then my grandfather had some land from my mom's side, had land and had orchards, and we had gardens. So sometimes in the summer we would go after you know, supper, and we would go out to the garden to do weeding and learn about things like that. And then during harvest of the orchards, we would go out and pick apples and peaches and cherries, and yeah, those were, I guess, I'm thinking about it, I had kind of an interesting childhood. I hope you all did too. So let me know what you think about that. And of course, number 10 was, I think I already talked about it. I kind of scooted it in with academics, but children were allowed to fail. Children of the 50s were allowed to fail. It was okay. And it was okay if my children failed. But I think more and more we're getting towards where parents look down on that. I can't imagine, and you probably do. Maybe they're making a bigger deal out of it now to stereotype parents of today. Ooh, but I know that if you're dealing with, like, I've seen movies and documentaries in New York City, oh my gosh, you have to apply and take tests to get into certain preschools in New York City. And if they don't, I mean, their world is crushed. And they're so expensive, yeah. So, yeah, in some areas of the country, I imagine, yeah, it's not good to fail as even a preschooler, but I think in most Midwest, it's okay. You know, even today, it's okay. Maybe parents might actually be changing as we go along. Okay, so those are my stories. I hope you enjoy this series. I think it's kind of cool to look back and reflect, that we can learn from history a little bit. And I think it's fun. It's fun to learn and see the differences between now and then. From now and then, yeah. Okay, so I love you guys. Tomorrow, I'm going to do 11 through 15, and then we'll be done with this. And there'll be some more stories, so, and maybe a little cooking, right? So I'm actually full from the smoothie I made. It was really good, so bye. I love you guys. Oh, subscribe. Thank you. Thank you. I love you. Bye. Bye.